The call came at 11:47 p.m., slicing through the quiet of my apartment like a blade. I had just kicked off my heels, my laptop still open on the dining table with spreadsheets glowing faintly on the screen, numbers that represented years of overtime, missed vacations, and a life built inch by inch without anyone's help. Send us $50,000. As soon as possible. My mother didn't even say hello. I straightened, my fingers tightening around the phone. What? We need it urgently, my father cut in, his voice firm in that familiar way that had always meant don't ask questions. Transfer it by tomorrow. For what? I asked. My heart thudded, not from fear, but from instinct. Something was wrong. There was a pause. Too long. The kind that carried secrets. It's family business, my mother finally said. You don't need to know details. That sentence landed harder than the demand itself. You don't need to know. I had heard it my whole life, when I was excluded from decisions, when my achievements were minimized, when everything somehow revolved around my younger sister. I don't just have 50,000 lying around, I said carefully. That wasn't entirely true. I did have it. I'd saved every cent myself. But they didn't need to know that. You're doing well, my father replied immediately. You've always been responsible. Unlike, he stopped himself. Unlike her. My sister. The golden child. The one who had never hidden her dislike for me, who rolled her eyes when I got scholarships, who laughed when I worked part-time jobs while she spent weekends shopping. The one my parents always protected, always excused. I need to understand why, I said. This is a lot of money. You're being selfish, my mother snapped. After everything we've done for you. I almost laughed. They hadn't paid for my college. Hadn't helped with rent. Hadn't even shown up to my graduation on time. But somehow, I was still indebted to them. Send it, my father repeated. Don't make this difficult. The call ended before I could respond. Just like that. No explanation. No reassurance. No gratitude. I sat there in the silence, phone still pressed to my ear, my chest tight with something heavier than anger. It was realization. The kind that crept in slowly, whispering truths I had spent years avoiding. They didn't ask because they cared. They demanded because they assumed I would obey. I looked around my apartment, the modest furniture, the framed certificate on the wall, the plants I somehow kept alive despite long workdays. This life was mine. I had built it alone. And yet, they felt entitled to tear a piece of it away without even telling me why. That night, instead of opening my banking app, I booked a ticket. If they wouldn't tell me the truth over the phone, I would hear it with my own ears. Unannounced. And whatever awaited me on the other side of that door, I knew one thing for certain. Once I saw it, nothing would ever be the same again. The house looked different the moment I stepped onto the driveway, louder, brighter, buzzing with a kind of joy that had never been reserved for me. White ribbons fluttered from the mailbox. A luxury sedan I didn't recognize was parked crookedly near the lawn. Laughter spilled through the open windows like music meant for someone else's life. My stomach tightened. I hadn't told anyone I was coming. I hadn't called ahead. I simply unlocked the door with the old key I'd never returned and walked in. The smell of fresh flowers hit me first, roses, peonies, something expensive and sweet. The living room was unrecognizable. Fabric samples were spread across the sofa. Garment bags hung from doorframes. A woman in a headset, clearly a wedding planner, stood near the dining table, talking rapidly about seating charts and timelines. And then I saw her. My sister stood in front of the mirror, draped in white silk, laughing as two women adjusted the bodice of a gown that probably cost more than my first car. Her hair was perfectly styled, her nails immaculate, her smile radiant in a way I had never once seen directed at me. My mother noticed me first. The color drained from her face. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, rushing toward me as if I were an intruder. I looked around slowly, my heart sinking with every detail. The flowers. The planner. The dress. The unspoken answer hanging in the air. What's going on? I asked, though I already knew. My father emerged from the kitchen, holding a glass of champagne. He froze when he saw me. For a brief moment, guilt flickered across his expression, then disappeared. My sister turned. Her smile faltered, just slightly, before hardening into something sharp and superior. "Oh," she said. "You came. That was it. No hug. No surprise. No warmth." "You're getting married," I whispered. "Yes," she replied coolly. "Next month. Destination wedding. Very exclusive." I waited. For an invitation. For an explanation. For anything. Nothing came. The wedding planner glanced between us, sensing tension, then quietly excused herself. My mother crossed her arms defensively. "This is what we needed the money for," she said, as if stating the weather. "Your sister deserves a beautiful wedding." The word slammed into my chest. "So the 50,000, I said slowly, was for this." "It's not just for this," my father muttered. "Weddings are expensive." I laughed then, a short, broken sound. "And why didn't you tell me?" My sister finally spoke, her voice dripping with false innocence. "Because you always make things awkward. We didn't want drama." Drama. From me. The one who had stayed silent for years. "You weren't even going to invite me," I said. My mother didn't deny it. "It's better this way," she said. "You'd feel out of place." That hurt more than the demand. More than the lie. I stood there, surrounded by celebration that I was never meant to be part of, realizing the truth I had avoided my whole life. I wasn't family to them when it mattered. I was a wallet. And for the first time I understood exactly what I had to do next. The room fell quiet after my last words, as if the house itself were holding its breath. The ribbons by the doorway fluttered gently in the air conditioning, mocking the tension tightening around my chest. My sister's reflection stared back at me from the mirror, perfect makeup, perfect dress, perfect life, all built on the assumption that I would pay for it. "Well," my mother demanded. "You've seen everything now. Transfer the money and let's not turn this into something ugly." There it was. No apology. No shame. Just expectation. I looked at her, really looked this time. The woman who had taught me to share, to sacrifice, to put family first, unless family meant me. My father stood beside her, avoiding my eyes, already convinced the matter was settled. My sister crossed her arms, her lips curving into a smug smile, as though the outcome had never been in doubt. I took a slow breath. My hand stopped shaking. "No," I said. The word sounded small, but it landed like a thunderclap. My mother blinked. "What did you say?" "I said no," I repeated, louder this time. "I'm not giving you $50,000. My sister laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. "Stop being dramatic. You'll send it. You always do what they ask." That sentence cut deeper than any insult. Because it was true, until now. "I worked for that money," I said, my voice steady despite the storm rising inside me. "I saved it. I earned it. And I'm not funding a wedding I wasn't even invited to." My father finally spoke, his tone heavy with authority. "Don't be selfish. This is your sister's big day." "And what about me?" I asked. When was my big day? When was I ever the priority? Silence answered me. My mother's face hardened. "You're ungrateful," she snapped. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us?" I almost listed everything they hadn't done: college tuition, emotional support, simple kindness, but I stopped. They wouldn't hear it. They never had. My sister stepped closer, her smile gone now, replaced with irritation. "If you ruin this for me," she said quietly, "I'll never forgive you." I met her gaze, years of swallowed resentment rising to the surface. You never forgave me for existing, I replied. Her eyes widened, not in guilt, but in shock. She hadn't expected resistance. You think you're better than us now? My father said. Because you have money? No, I said softly. I think I finally understand my worth. That was when the shouting started. My mother accused me of tearing the family apart. My father warned me not to come crying back. My sister called me jealous, bitter, heartless. Each word was meant to break me, to push me back into the role I had always played. But something inside me had already changed. I picked up my bag and walked toward the door. Think carefully, my mother called after me. Once you walk out, things won't be the same. I paused, my hand on the handle, and looked back one last time at the people who had taught me what love wasn't. You're right, I said. They won't. I left the house without transferring a single dollar. None of them knew it yet, but my refusal wasn't the end of their plans. It was the moment everything they had taken for granted began to unravel. The wedding day arrived wrapped in sunlight and spectacle. White chairs lined the seaside venue, waves glittered like a promise, and guests in tailored suits and flowing dresses murmured about how perfect everything looked. My sister stood at the center of it all, radiant, triumphant, certain the world had finally arranged itself exactly as she deserved. She didn't expect me to come. I arrived quietly, dressed simply, carrying no bitterness on my face and no envelope in my hands. Just a slim folder tucked beneath my arm. A gift, though not the kind they were expecting. My parents spotted me first. Panic flashed across my mother's face before she forced a brittle smile and whispered something to my father. He stiffened. My sister noticed the shift and turned, her expression tightening when she saw me walking down the aisle toward the guest seating. You came, she said later, intercepting me near the reception tables. I thought you were too busy resenting us. I wouldn't miss this, I replied calmly. I brought something special. Her eyes flicked to my empty hands, suspicion replacing arrogance. Where's the gift? It'll be presented soon, I said. To everyone. Music swelled. The ceremony unfolded. Vows were exchanged. Applause followed. Cameras flashed. Everything proceeded as planned, until the reception began. As the guests settled, the MC tapped the microphone. Before we continue, he announced, we have a surprise presentation from a family member. All eyes turned to me. My mother half rose from her chair. What are you doing? She hissed. I stepped forward, heart steady. This wasn't anger driving me, it was closure. I was asked to contribute $50,000 to this wedding, I began, my voice carrying clearly. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. My sister's smile faltered. I was told it was an emergency. It wasn't. It was this. Gasps. I opened the folder. For years, I continued, I quietly supported my family, paid bills, cleared debts, funded vacations, while being told I wasn't needed, wasn't included, wasn't important. I paused, then added gently, today, I wanted to give a gift of truth. I handed copies of documents to the MC, bank statements, payment records, timelines. He hesitated, then projected them onto the screen behind us. The numbers spoke louder than I ever could. Whispers turned into stunned silence. My father went pale. My mother's hands trembled. My sister stared at the screen as if it were lying to her, proof that the comfort she'd enjoyed, the upgrades she'd never questioned, the very wedding she stood beside, had been built on money she never earned and gratitude she never offered. That's a lie, my sister said weakly. It isn't, I replied softly. And I didn't come to ruin your day. I came to reclaim my story. I closed the folder. I won't be funding this wedding. I won't be funding silence anymore. Consider this my final contribution. I stepped back. The applause didn't come, but something better did. Understanding. Shame. Truth settling where entitlement once lived. I left before the cake was cut. Later that evening, messages flooded in, some angry, some pleading, some apologetic. I didn't answer any of them. I watched the ocean instead, feeling lighter with every breath. Revenge didn't come from humiliation. It came from walking away with my dignity intact. And letting the truth stand where I once did.